evening, college football fans, and welcome into this Week 11 update. I'm Garrett Green, here to bring you all the stats and news about Week 11 in the 2010 college football season. Starting this week off was Boise State playing Idaho on Friday night. And this is a game that's generally a big rivalry between these two teams, and we saw it in the pregame whenever things got a little bit scrappy at around midfield. However, once the game started off, there was no contest. It was one-sided as Boise State demolishes Idaho 52-14, being up 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. Kellen Moore, making his stake for the Heisman, goes 19 of 26, 216 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Now, getting into the top 10 games, there were a couple of close calls on Saturday. Starting off in the Pac-10 with Oregon playing Cal. And this game was tight all the way through. Whenever Oregon is tied 15-13 with Cal in the fourth quarter, Cal has a chance to go up on a 24-yard field goal. However, the kicker flinches a little bit before the ball is snapped. That's called an offside. Therefore, they move the ball back 5 yards, and on a 29-yard field goal, he hooks it wide right. Oregon proceeds to eat up the last 9.5 minutes of the clock and runs out the game, wins in a close one, 15-13, and with that win, they still hold on to their spot as number 1 in the BCS. Now, another matchup that was interesting was number 2 Auburn. There were questions about how Cam Newton would perform this week after all the allegations that were around him. And Georgia in this game got out to an early lead, leading 21-7 at the end of the first quarter. However, Cam Newton would rally his troops and lead them back as Auburn wins this run, running away 49-31. A couple of stats about Cam Newton in this game. He goes 12 for 15 for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also, though, more significantly, getting it done with his legs with 30 carries for 151 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. With this game, Cam Newton becomes the first player in SEC history to have 2,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards in one season, and he also becomes the 8th player all-time in NCAA history to do this. Also with this, Auburn wins the SEC West for the first time since 2004. We all remember that's the year that they went undefeated in the regular season but did not have a chance to play in the national championship game. On to another interesting matchup that was very close. Stanford outlasts Arizona State 17-13. This is a game where Andrew Luck did not throw a touchdown, had an interception and a fumble, but manages to lead Stanford on a drive down the field where they score on a 1-yard touchdown run with 5 minutes left, putting them ahead for the game. The defense holds. Stanford outlasts Arizona State. Luck goes 33 of 41 for 292 yards and that 1 interception. He is a lot of people's Heisman favorite and the number 1 selected quarterback is what a lot of people are projecting. So good job managing the game for him. Not great statistically, but still something that shows that he can win. On to another interesting game in the SEC. You had Florida playing South Carolina, and a lot was at stake this year as South Carolina was looking for their first opportunity to play in the SEC championship game. And of course, this is the old ball coach Steve Spurrier's trip back to the swamp for the first time. Now, South Carolina was 0-12 in the swamp coming into this game. They managed to snap that streak as they rolled Florida 36-14, winning the SEC East for the first time since they have joined the SEC in 1992. So great job by Steve Spurrier turning that team around and getting them back into prominence. They will play Auburn in the SEC championship game, looking to spoil their perfect season, and Auburn does still have to get past Alabama in the Iron Bowl next week. Now, as we said last week, the great thing about college football is the upsets, and there were several of them this week. USC is a team that is not bowl eligible due to their 2-year bowl ban after the Reggie Bush scandal, and a lot of people said that they had their bowl game in playing Oregon. Well, they had a chance to play spoiler this week as they upset number 18 Arizona 24-21. They get off to an early lead, kind of fade late, but managed to hang on against Arizona. Another game that was interesting was Northwestern beating number 13 Iowa. Now, generally, this would not come as a surprise since Northwestern has beaten Iowa 5 of the last 6 meetings. However, Northwestern made an incredible fourth quarter comeback, scoring 14 points in the fourth quarter. Both of those touchdowns coming with less than 7 minutes left to go in the game. Great job by them. Ricky Stanzi throws up a Hail Mary at the end that is knocked down, and Iowa is beaten by Northwestern. Another interesting game, Notre Dame tops number 14 Utah 28-3. And we all remember that last week, number 3 TCU went into Utah back when Utah was ranked number 5, looking to be a BCS buster, and held them to only 7 points. By being held only to 3 points this week, gives them 10 total points over the last 2 weeks on this normally high-scoring Utah offense. Great win for Notre Dame and Brian Kelly. Other top 25 games, LSU shuts down Louisiana Monroe and shuts them out 51-0. Very interesting game. Also, number 7 Wisconsin scores 83 points against Indiana, winning 83-20 in that Big Ten matchup. Then you have number 8 Nebraska on their Big 12 farewell tour, beating Kansas 20-3 in what would appear to be the last Big 12 matchup that these teams will ever play, looking to continue the rivalry. Don't know how they'll be able to schedule that, but it appears that Nebraska has the last laugh on this border rivalry between Kansas. Number 9, Ohio State managed to rally after a 14-3 deficit at halftime and beat the Nittany Lions 38-14, running away. Joe Pa can't get his 401st win. He will look for it next week. And number 15, Arkansas rolls over UTEP 58-21. A guy who is a favorite quarterback coming out of there, Ryan Mallett, not in the Heisman talks, but had a fantastic game, going 19 of 26 for 215 yards and 5 touchdowns. So a great day for him. Of course, you get on to the ACC again. Number 20, Virginia Tech, has a 17-point fourth quarter that boasts them to a 26-10 win. And of course, they overcome losing their first 2 games to Boise State to win 8 straight games, and they are now 6-0 in the ACC, looking to win that ACC division and get into the ACC championship and win it this year. A couple of non-top 25 teams. Miami, playing Georgia Tech, beats them 35-10 in a game that saw both backup quarterbacks playing. Ja'Cory Harris obviously still out with a concussion, and Nesbitt out with that broken arm that he suffered against Virginia Tech last week. And Florida State comes back in the fourth quarter and beats Clemson 16-13. On to a little bit of Big 12 action. OU takes down Texas Tech in Norman 45-7. Number 17 Missouri bounces back from losing to Texas Tech and beats number 24 Kansas State 38-28. And of course, a matchup that a lot of people were looking for in the Big 12 South. Waco with Baylor playing Texas A&M. This is a game that there were not a lot of mistakes, only 1 turnover, and that was committed by A&M. But the Texas A&M defense shuts down Baylor, does not give up anything in the second half, and Cyrus Gray plays out of his mind in the second half, scoring all 3 touchdowns for the Texas A&M Aggies as they win this game. Oh, I don't have the score written down. Texas A&M does beat Baylor by a final score of 42-30. Great comeback win by the Aggies. It does not get any easier for them, though, as they play Nebraska next week at home in College Station, though, looking to be a good matchup between a Big 12 South and a Big 12 North team. And, of course, since we are in Austin, we will wrap up with the Oklahoma State versus Texas game. It was not a pretty one here in Austin this week, as Oklahoma State scored early and scored often. The Horns managed to come back in the fourth quarter and score a couple of touchdowns, but it was not even close as Oklahoma State beats Texas 33-16. This snaps a 12-year losing streak that the Cowboys have against the Longhorns, and we all knew that coming into this game, Oklahoma State's record was that they would get up, have an early lead, but Texas would manage to rally in the second half and come out back and miraculously beat them. However, Vince Young and Colt McCoy were not here, and Garrett Gilbert was not able to lead the Longhorns back as they lose 33-16. That is the fifth straight loss at home for the Horns. The first time they have lost 5 home games since 1956. A very bad year for the Texas Longhorns. It is tragic indeed right now in Austin, Texas, needing to win their last 2 games against Florida Atlantic and, of course, against A&M on Thanksgiving Day just to become bowl eligible. Now, a couple of interesting notes about your discrepancies between your BCS standings and your AP Top 25. With the win that Boise State had, and with the fact that TCU only outlasted San Diego State 40-35, Boise State comes within 0.3 computer points of TCU. That's half the total that they were last week. So you can see here that because TCU was not able to win by as large of a margin, and Boise State absolutely blows Idaho out of the water, they're doing what a lot of people said they needed to do in order to make it into that BCS title game. Now they also have to hope for Auburn losing to Alabama. A couple of other discrepancies between it is that USC hops in to the AP Top 25 at number 20, but they are not seen in the BCS rankings. Also, Florida State is number 25 in the BCS, not ranked in the AP Top 25. Oklahoma State is ranked 12 in the AP, 10 in the BCS, and Stanford and Wisconsin are flip-flopped in that. Minor discrepancies that won't have as big of an impact. As we were talking about with the SEC, let's look at another couple of standings. Florida State currently sits atop the ACC Atlantic Division, and Virginia Tech, as we said, sitting there on the Coastal Division, leading that one. In the Big 12, you have Nebraska leading in the North, and Oklahoma State is in control of their own destiny, looking to win their first Big 12 South title and advance the Big 12 championship game. We could have a rematch of Oklahoma State and Nebraska in Cowboys Stadium come this first weekend of December. Interesting note is in the Big 10, where you have Michigan State, Ohio State, and Wisconsin all with 1 loss. Now, Michigan State has not played these teams, but as we all know, Wisconsin holds the tiebreaker over Ohio State. So this might come down to a thing where we saw back in 2008, where you had Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas Tech all tied with 1 loss, and it comes down to computer rankings, which currently favor Ohio State in that regard. So we'll see how things turn out in the Big 10. Well, thanks for tuning in this week for our Week 11 broadcast. As I said, this will become more of a regular thing. We will have your Week 12 update next week. I'm Garrett Green signing off from Austin, Texas. Have a good evening and hook 'em horns.